Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and today we're going to be talking about one of the easiest, most simplest, bad grammar, garments that we could add to our capsule wardrobe, and that is the knit dress. And when we have garments that are really simple to sew, really simple to wear, usually what's going to make them outstanding are little attention to details such as fit. So we're going to be talking about 5 easy fit hacks in order for you to get a really great fitting knit dress that you can change necklines on and make in different fabrics and all that kind of stuff as a great wardrobe basic. And this is perfect for any beginners, any body types, doesn't matter. We're going to be going through that today. But before we get into that, today is Friday, which means we have a Love Notions Feature Friday pattern, and that pattern is the Canyon Cardi. Sorry to say Cardi first. The Canyon Cardi. Lovely cardigan pattern. Has, I think, 3 different views. There's like a waterfall view, one that's a little bit straighter. Really good, like, I don't know, mid-hip length. Really great transitional piece, whether you're going into warmer weather or if you're in the southern hemisphere and going into cooler weather. So a really good topper transitional piece, layering piece, depending on where you are in the world and if you are going, again, warmer or colder. It is on sale today, and if you use my code, and this is a new code for second quarter, TK Stitchery 10, you'll get an additional 10% off that sale price. So if you don't have this one in your catalog yet, if you're looking for a great cardigan pattern, this is a really good one to try. So there you have it, today's Feature Friday pattern. All right, let's talk about knit dresses, specifically how we can get a really great fitting knit dress for our wardrobe. All right, why do I like knit dresses? Number one, they're just as easy to wear as a t-shirt, and yet when you have a dress on, it feels more put together. You don't have to worry about matching a top with a bottom or, figuring out, you have less accessories to figure out because it's just one garment. But it still can be very versatile in layering things over it. If it's sleeveless, you could layer things under it if you would like, depending on the style. There's many ways that you can dress up or down a knit dress. And I honestly feel like shoes make the biggest impact. You can go with a pair of like sandals or flip-flops even, Birkenstocks, and it really dresses the dress down, sneakers. Or if you choose like a nicer sandal, an espadrille, a wedge, something like that, all of a sudden you've elevated your knit dress. And it's a lot of fun because it's a blank slate often, a lot of fun to play around with different fabrics, colors, all that sort of thing. But when it comes to really simple silhouettes such as this, and this is the Pattern Emporium Spellbound dress that I am showing that we are using as our example here today. But when it comes to a dress, or any garment really, that is very simple lines, fit is impeccable. Because when we have, there's less for the eye to look at. If you've got a blouse with a lot of seam lines and a lot of detail on it, some of the little fit wrinkles, that sort of thing, get lost in it. And so it's not as big of a deal. As long as you're comfortable wearing it, you can move around, you can get away with a lot more. Whereas when you're wearing a dress, especially if you were to make something like this in a solid fabric that is simpler lines, the eye is going to catch maybe on a few of the discrepancies in fit. But I also want to remind you, before we get into these, is that perfect fit does not exist. Perfect anything does not exist. Perfection is a myth. It is a thief of joy. That is not what we're going for. What we are going for is really great fit. Something that we feel great when we're wearing, that is comfortable for us to wear, and that is honestly better than anything we can buy in stores. So that is our goal here, not perfection. I just want to say that because I know that perfection can get in the way of really enjoying a great fitting garment. And remember, as a sewist, seamstress, whatever you want to call yourself, sewer, you're going to see the little not quite right parts well before anyone else does. So keep that in mind. You don't need to point out everything that you've messed up on any of your sewing projects. No one else is seeing those. Only you. You're the only one that's seeing those little issues. Okay, so let's talk about getting that really great fit on knit dresses. And these are 5 tips that are great for any beginner. If you have never made a knit garment, if you are new to sewing with knit garments, if you're new to sewing, period, any of these are very easy for a beginner to grasp, as well as someone that's been sewing for 60 years. If you are new to sewing knits though, and it scares you and you're not sure, where to even start, I have a class, a knit sewing essentials class, where we're going through making t-shirts. It's the same thing though. If you can make a t-shirt, you can make a knit dress. And in that class, I hold your hand. I show you how to sew with knits on a sewing machine. It is a little different than sewing with wovens. So how to do it on a sewing machine, or if you wanted to delve into the world of sergers and cover stitches, I show all of the steps on that as well. But I will leave that class linked down below if you are interested in something along those lines. All right, so let's start at the top of the garment, and we are going to go through my top 5 fit hacks. We're going to call them hacks, I guess. Just easy ways to make sure we're getting a great fit on our knit dress. Number 1, picking the correct size. Guys, everything with fit goes down to, it really can be simplified. Not perfect. I mean, choosing the best size isn't going to necessarily ensure that you have a really great fit, but it is the basis for making it as easy as possible. So picking that correct fit is absolutely step number 1 in getting a great fitting garment. And what measurement do we want to go off of when it comes to dresses and tops? Yes, we do need to pay attention to our waist and hip measurements, especially with dresses, but we're going to be picking based on that upper bust measurement. Now, this is a Pattern Emporium pattern, which means the upper bust measurements are listed in the size chart. So we're picking our size based on that upper bust measurement. This is the measurement that's taken right up underneath our armpits and above the breast tissue, around the circumference of our body. Why is this important? Because it is the measurement when the pattern drafter, when the pattern designer was their sloper, this measurement corresponds with shoulders and neck sizes. Now, does this mean that it's going to be a great fit? If you are really narrow in the shoulders, or maybe you are a little bit more broad in the shoulders, you may still need to do a little tweaking in the shoulders, but this is going to give you the best place to start, okay? And for a lot of people, this is going to be spot on. You're choosing that upper bust measurement, your neckline and shoulders are going to fit a lot better, okay? If you are using a pattern that does not have a upper bust measurement, and if it doesn't mention that it sews for a certain cup size, the best assumption is that, because most patterns do, not all, but most, if it's not noted anywhere in their size chart, draft for a B cup. This is true for all of the commercial patterns. This means they draft for a difference of 2 inches from upper bust to full bust. So if they've got a full bust measurement of, 36 inches, that means that they're using an upper bust measurement of 34 inches. So hopefully that makes sense. If a pattern says that they draft for a C cup, that's a 3-inch difference from upper bust to full bust. D cup, 4-inch from upper bust to full bust, so on and so forth. Different than a bra cup sizes, okay? This is, sewing cup sizes are completely different than bra cup sizes. Bra cup sizes are going from under bust to full bust. Sewing cup sizes are that upper bust to full bust. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. It's really wonderful when you've got patterns that do list that upper bust measurement, but not all do. So we are picking, again, and you may have to do a little bit of math if you have a pattern that just shows full bust measurement, backing it up 2 inches in order to find the right size for you. Now, you may say, okay, but Whitney, I have a 5-inch difference from my upper bust to full bust. That's not going to fit my full bust. That's okay. We will tackle that here in just a second. So we're going to pick the correct size. Now, the other thing that we want to think about is our hip and possibly waist, depending on the style of dress. The Spellbound here is a very, there's no waist seam, so it is a little bit more relaxed through the waist area, but still comes in to give you the shape of a waist, which is why I love it so much, and then sweeps out onto the hip. So the second tip is that you are going to want to make note of what your hip measurement is to make sure maybe you need to size usually up, maybe down though in that hip area. Technically, I have to size down with hips because I'm so straight through my hip area, even compared to my upper bust. However, I find that it balances my figure better if I stick with the same size on my hips as my upper bust. So for a dress like this that skims over those areas, it makes my hip line look just a little bit wider, which is what I want because it's going to balance my hips with my shoulders. So just kind of keep that in mind. However, if you are someone that is larger on a larger size on your hips than you are with your waist and upper bust area, you're going to want to grade. Now, this dress pattern actually makes that really easy because of the style of this dress where it's just a really large piece basically. The pattern actually comes as a bodice and a skirt, and you overlap at a line there on the pattern and then cut your piece out. Which means you can cut out a separate bodice size and skirt size. You are going to have to do some grading, which means we are just making a nice clean line from where the waist of the dress goes into the waist of the skirt. Okay, the waist of the bodice goes into the waist of the skirt. This does not have to be perfect, just a nice gliding line, a nice swooped line. We don't want anything jagged or anything like that. Just a nice soft curve going from one to the other is as easy as that when it comes to grading, okay? So you are gonna wanna make sure, and if you only have a one size difference between your upper bust and full bust, I would pick size based on full bust and check those finished measurements. You want at least 2 inches of ease at your hip. Maybe, I mean, if you're wanting a little bit swishiness, maybe you want a little bit more. But even though your hip falls into a different size on the size chart, it may fit just fine into that finished measurement, depending on the style of dress. If you've got a fuller skirt, you're going to have more room if your hips are a little bit bigger than that size to fit in there just fine. So do keep that in mind as well. We want to look at those finished measurements, which play a little bit of different role with knits because our bodice is probably going to be smaller than our body size because we want it to be fitted, and knit fabric allows us to have what is called negative ease, meaning that the garment is actually smaller than our body measurements because the fabric works to stretch to fit our bodies. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. All right, fit hack number 3. All right, let's say you've picked your correct size, you know whether or not you need to grade between your bust, upper bust and hips. But what if you've got a larger bust? This comes in, especially with knit dresses, it's really more of an issue when it comes to larger busts as opposed to smaller busts. Smaller busts, you just got a little bit more wiggle room if your bust is smaller, full bust is smaller than what your upper bust size is putting you in. But with a full bust, we do need to make some adjustments in order to fit into the dress. Small bust, you know, maybe you're just taking in the side seams a little bit after you've made your dress. You're good to go when it comes to knit garments. However, full bust, you need to be able to fit. And if it's really having to stretch that fabric, you may need to do a full bust adjustment. Now, I do have a video on the channel on 3 ways to do a full bust adjustment on knit fabrics. So dartless, you don't have to add a dart. I will link that video down below. It is an old one. It's like a real, like one of the OG of my videos. I probably need to refilm that video because I have come a long way with editing and my videography and my cameras and all that kind of stuff. But I do have that video. All of the information is still correct, and I will link that video down below if you are interested. However, in this specific pattern, she actually has a little bit of a different way on how to do a full bust adjustment on this pattern, which I did do when I made this bodice, and it's fun. It's something a little bit different. But so if you are using this specific pattern, this is the Pattern Emporium Spellbound, I would highly recommend, giving it a try if you're curious. But if you're using a different dress, this is absolutely easy to do with that video that I have linked down below, and I give you 3 different ways that you can do that full bust adjustment. So that is something that you may want to do with knits. Again, if you have a 3-inch difference between upper bust and full bust, and this was drafted for a 2-inch difference, you're probably fine to not have to do a full bust adjustment because the knit fabric is going to stretch. But if you have a large difference between upper bust and full bust, you are going to, I would say above 3 inches, you're probably going to want to do a full bust adjustment. All right, so that was number 3. Number 4, making sure that the waist of the pattern is hitting your waist. When we look at a pattern, especially a pattern such as this, such as the Spellbound, where you get a lot of the shaping not in seams, although there is a beautiful back seam on this that gives some back shaping through the waist. But we want a little bit of shaping there through the waist, and we don't have a waist seam to give us that shaping. We're going to have a very exaggerated curve there where the pattern is going to go in there at the waist. If you have a shorter torso or if you have a higher waist, I guess I should say, than what the pattern is drafted for, the narrowest part of that pattern is going to hit lower on your body. And what does this mean? This means where your body starts to get wide, you're going to have the narrowest part of the pattern hitting that spot. And that is not, it's just not going to be very, I hate the word flattering, but it's not going to be very flattering. You're going to have the narrowest part of the pattern hitting where you're starting to get wider, and we're going to have clinging, and it's just not, it's not a good look. There's actually a really good picture demonstration of this in this pattern on what happens when you literally just raise that waist up. So it's a matter of basically shortening the bodice. Because we want that waist to hit us at our natural spot. Now, if you have a longer torso, it's not as big of a deal on a dress like this because there's not a waist seam that is sitting too high. And if the narrowest part of this pattern is hitting a little bit higher on you, that's still a narrower part of your body and you're going to be fine. But if you're someone that has a high waist, like myself, or a shorter torso, or if you're just petite, you are going to want to take a look at that, and it could be a matter of raising that waistline so that the narrowest part of the pattern is hitting your narrowest part. For me, that means a 1 inch. I have to shorten the bodice of a lot of patterns, actually, 1 inch. So I'm raising that waist 1 inch. I'm not going at the lengthen and shorten line necessarily. If anything, I'm making a lengthen and shorten line at the waist, and often there is a notch right there on any pattern at the waist, and I'm raising that waist up so that it hits at my narrowest part and at my waist. Therefore, it is skimming down my body and not clinging. So that is a very important measurement that can make a huge difference. Okay. Also, if you're shorter in that area, and that sway back adjustment might be needed as well. But if we're not going to get into too much of the more difficult, not that it's difficult, but the more intense fitting. But if you are short in the torso, a lot of times the fabric can also pool there at the back because it just has more length than what you need in that area, and then you've got the excess fabric that pools there as well, and shortening that waist also helps alleviate some of that. So I would shorten the waist, especially if you're getting any clinging right here. When in doubt, make a test garment. All right, and then the fifth fit hack that I have for today is hems. Hems are very important, my dear people. We want our hems to be hitting us at spots in our body that are not cutting us off, but helping to elongate. So basically, any horizontal line that you have on your body is going to be a place where the eye stops. So the whole golden rule, general thumb, you don't want a horizontal line stopping where you're getting wider. So this could be, I mean, when it comes with shirts, if it could be, you know, maybe right at, if as your body is starting to get wider, you know, right there at that hip, you maybe want to go below that hip where you're getting a little bit narrower, or go above where you're narrow. The same goes especially for midi length dresses. It is very important that when you're making a midi length dress, that it hits at the correct spot on the lower leg in order to not, especially if you're short, not make you look stumpy or not cut off your leg in a very odd spot. So on a midi length, this could be right below the fullest part of your calf. So right as your leg is starting to go a little bit narrower. This could also be right above your ankle. Like that's a beautiful spot because your ankles, or maxi is also really beautiful. So basically you don't want a midi dress hitting in that spot between knee and where your calf is starting to get big. That is going to be a cause what seems to be a frumpy line. You can have dresses that hit right at your knee. I often like a dress that hits right up, just right above my knee. If you're wanting to go a little bit shorter, that can be a very flattering thing as well. Right below the knee, not very good. And really that area between right below the knee and right where your calf starts to get fuller, you want to stay away from that area. You want to go just a little bit longer or just a little bit shorter. Very important when it comes to our skirt lengths. And depending on your comfort level, I mean, if you don't like a short skirt, obviously you can totally do midi. Just make sure it's hitting really at the center of your calf where your calf is starting to narrow just a little bit. That's a really good spot. Same goes with our sleeves. This is obviously a sleeveless dress, but if you've got a sleeve that is just way too long and it's all bunchy and weird, that can look frumpy as well. We want those sleeves to hit right there. I like my sleeves to hit right at that first joint right there at your thumb. This is, you know, I know people with long arms sometimes like their sleeves to be a little bit longer, but as long as you're wearing them at that spot and it isn't getting too bunchy, that is absolutely fine. A bracelet length is beautiful. 3/4 is really beautiful. Again, you want that to hit right in the middle of your forearm. Elbow length can be really beautiful length. If you are large busted, don't end your sleeve right across the fullest part of your bust, in line with the fullest part of your bust. That is going to give, it's just going to follow that line, again, a wide part of your body, because the eye is stopping at that sleeve. So you want to go either above that or below the fullest part of your chest when it comes to that sleeve length. Cap sleeves are beautiful, obviously sleeveless. So keep those in mind as well. Your hem lengths can have a huge difference on how fit is perceived and how you feel in your garment. Okay, so those are 5 fit hacks. Oh my gosh, why am I having such a hard time? 5 fit hacks that are easy for anyone to start with, even if you are a beginner sewist. I hope that this was helpful, number one, and also give some knit dresses a try. They are really my favorite thing to wear in the summer. I find them cooler than shorts, and again, you can dress them up or down. And once you get a really great fitting knit dress, by changing fabrics, you could go with a bold print for something that's a lot of fun, go with a neutral or a solid fabric that can be easily mixed and matched with other things. I'm actually going to be tackling different ways we can style our knit dresses in a short here coming up, so keep an eye out on the channel for that. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. I hope that this was helpful. I hope this gives you some confidence to try a very easy knit dress as we start to get into the changing weather, whether it's a sleeveless one or one for the colder months and you're adding a sleeve. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. I hope you have enjoyed this one. Leave any questions you have down below, and I will see you guys again next time. Happy sewing!